Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the Lumberjack Landlord. How you doing, sir?
I'm super pumped to be here, Mike. And this is a big one. This is a big one to talk about.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard, but I was lucky enough to be invited to speak to a room full of 25-year-olds. These folks were getting their master's degree. So graduates, right?
Okay.
And their teacher invited me in. She's actually one of my students.
Okay.
She invited me in to talk about real estate. Not really. Actually, I should flip that. It wasn't real estate she wanted me to talk about first. It was financial freedom in retirement,
Nice.
which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because, again, right, first off, did it on Zoom, right? They're
Nice.
actually all over the country, which I thought was weird, which is kind of cool. But again, we were talking about retirement to 25-year-olds, and again, they're younger than my daughter, just to put this in context, these folks I was talking to. And I don't know, it was a fun exercise. It had me really thinking. So I thought you and I should just talk about, hey, we want to help, really everybody think about retirement. I think retirement needs to be thought about differently.
Yep.
But okay, Matt, you get tapped on the shoulder. You're talking to a 50, 25-year-olds. What are kind of the 2 or 3 things you really want to communicate?
I get comfortable because they're going to tell me everything that they know. No, they're going to give me perspective, right? But what do we do in our positions? We ask people, well, so what's your view on things? Like, how do you see it? How do you see it today?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking forward to working the next 40 years
Mm-hmm.
and paying off your college debt and, bouncing around to companies to get the raises that you want. How do you see it?
Yeah.
I think that consultative approach, because I have no idea what the hole in their game is. They might not have a hole in their game.
Yeah.
So they might be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And okay, cool. Like, love that.
Yeah.
So I always ask them, the first thing I do is I always ask folks, how do you see it? How do you see retirement? How do you see getting successful? Because I can tell you 80% of people, this is a real statistic, 80% of people at the age of 25 believe they're going to be millionaires.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
Here's the good news. This administration has them on track with a handout. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Horrible thing. But so I think the key is I want to understand where people are coming from. So after they've told me where they're coming from and they say, this is kind of how I see it playing out. I say, okay, well, great news. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, that you just pick the hardest job on the planet. It's the hardest one out there.
Yeah.
Because you are responsible for everything at the end of the day. 100%. And as you build your company, every single employee that you hire, et cetera. So I always like to just talk about, where they're coming from. And then based on where they're coming from, then it's really kind of, understand, diagnose before we start prescribing.
Yeah.
And so in that approach, it's understanding where they're coming from. And then once I've heard where they're coming from, the answers do really vary. At its core, the very first step is, okay, that's awesome. That's fantastic. What's the plan to get there? Help me understand what the plan is, right? Yeah. So it's really a matter of what we talked about in the first video, which is you'll never be as financially free as you are at that age.
Yeah.
Right now. You've never been this free. Congratulations. Now, before you start throwing it away on expensive houses or expensive housing, expensive cars, expensive vacations because you feel like you've earned it, all of these things, let's look at what life really costs.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it. So yeah, for me, it's always diagnose and then prescribe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very wise advice. So these were kind of things that I walked them through. First off, because again, I didn't really get to talk to them first, right? Hey, Michael, he wrote a book, go, right? It's kind of what I got, right? And then these little screens, I'm sure half of them were, I'm sure half of them were dummies or something.
They paused.
They froze their screen. That's fine. They found some way to cheat Zoom, I'm sure. But anyways, I gave it a shot. So first and foremost, I try to shock people because I try to shock people on these big things so they pay attention, right? Because I know what it's like. Yeah. All right, I'm here from, I'm in my class from 4 to 5. I got some old guy talking to me. I'm going to do something else. So I started off with basically the idea of, hey, if you want to be financially free in 10 years, it's possible, right? Who wants to, right? Try to get them to raise their hand or do the little symbol in Zoom. And then I'm like, congratulations. It is absolutely possible if you want to get it done in 10 years, but you've got to sacrifice daily discipline, all the things that we talk about. I said, the first thing you need to do is you need to follow what a good friend of mine talks about with the 4-3-2-1 strategy, right? You need to get comfortable house hacking or having roommates. And I talked about Todd Baldwin and Anna Kelly and Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets, right? All these people house hacked first. And I said, it's not about the millionaire next door where you're stop buying Starbucks coffee. It's go take your largest monthly expense and whack it to zero. Or if you're lucky, make it positive, right? But let's at least get it to zero. So we talked about that. So thank you for all you do in my course. It's in there. That was the number one, right? If you're going to be financially free in 10 years, you have to whack your biggest. You're not going to get there saving money. Nope. Not in 10 years.
Nope.
Not in 10 years. So that was the first thing we talked about. Number two, I talked about, hey, your grandparents had pensions, your parents had 401ks, some of that is still around, but oh, by the way, you also have the opportunity to monetize your special gifts, talents, and ambitions. I strongly suggest that, hey, if you're going to go work at a company, bust your ass during the day, be the best employee you can be.
That's right.
If they offer a 401k and they match, go get the match, right? If that's what your thing is.
That's right.
But here's the deal. You've got to take your interest, passion, hobbies, whatever it is, and you have to start building your brand, your thing. Mm-hmm. If I could go back in time and start one rental at a time a decade ago, oh my God. Can you imagine what it would be today?
We'd already be talking about celebrating 100,000 and not 500.
Exactly. So
probably.
So that's one thing that I think is really important. I think every generation has it. Like for us, it was 401ks, right? Oh, you got a 401k, company's going to match. I think the limit used to be like $6,000 and then it's 7. I don't even know what it is anymore, but
I think it's like 17 now.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's big. Yeah. Again, go get it if you can. But I wanted them, these 25-year-olds, to realize that they should be thinking about a decade ahead. Like I think Dion says, you're going to be alive in 10 years. Act like it.
Yes.
So start building your brand. And I don't care what it is, right? If these are MBA students, so you're going to run off and be a business analyst or a marketing person or whatever, but you love strawberry shortcake or cheesecake or peanut butter cookies. I don't care. Go build a brand around that. It's going to be slow and hard, but think a decade ahead. Because again, the beauty about retirement is you don't have to live on 4% of your 401k, right? The average 401k, if somebody retiring today, is a disgusting $260,000. And it's not that it's $260,000, but they've been doing it forever. And try to take 4% of $260,000 is like $12,000. Who's going to live on $12,000? Right? I mean, you probably spend more of that on beer makeup or whatever the hell you do. Beard makeup.
Beard oil.
Beard oil. See, I don't know what it is. I don't have that problem. I don't know what beard oil is. Beard oil? Seriously? Beard oil?
They make beard oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't use it.
No, just natural. Glean.
It's just natural. This is lumberjack natural. Yep.
Anyways, I digress. Sorry. So yeah, again, if you can build a side hustle, even if it's just half, right? If you live on 5 and you get $2,000 from whatever. So that was the next thing I talked about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I talk to guys that are, in their 20s as electricians. I was like, you have your license.
Yeah.
Why are you not picking up side work? I want to hit you in the head with a hammer. If I had my electrician's license, you'd never see me hire an electrician again. I do all my own.
Yeah.
But I don't. And legally, technically, I can. I just don't want the liability. So there's a lot of things like that. And so, like we've always said, I've been saying this for months, which is there's never a better time to monetize your gifts, talents, and abilities than there is right now. And I think the other big thing too is that even as that MBA, right? Even other meetups, small business startup meetups.
Yep.
Guess what? How many of those people have MBAs? Not many. Probably less than 10%.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Absolutely.
So what if you're just out there and you're just super cheap and you just get to see the way a bunch of different businesses work and you're spending 5 hours on a Saturday or 4 hours on a Saturday doing it?
Yeah. You
get to see how a bunch of different businesses work. Even if you're just charging $50 an hour times 4 hours, it's $200 a weekend.
Yeah.
It's an extra $10,000 a year.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted them to communicate to these folks, again, this was my opinion, right? My grandparents, I think 3 of the 4, passed away in their 60s, seemingly like 4 or 5 years after they retired. I don't remember. I was young, so I don't really remember it well. But basically what I wanted them to realize is they should plan to live to 100.
Yeah.
So not only does that impact how much you have to save, But I can promise you, if you have interests and hobbies and you're still excited every day to go forward, your life is going to be far richer. You're going to be far happier. And what you build today, you can use later. I just wanted these, it's hard, right? 25.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them to think.
They
like
haven't
that.
even started and you're talking about how you're going to finish.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, and then I closed with, hey, again, I hope all of you are retired at 35 and, you have half your income coming from your passion, hobby, right, monetize that. So that's what I tried to do.
I mean, honestly, if you take them through those finer points, that's a better conversation than they've had about finances and retirement than any other time in their life.
Yeah.
That's a better conversation than they've had with anybody their entire rest of their life. So if you listened and if you heeded the advice, guess what? You've got a pretty good chance at success. And I think that so often, we look at this and it's like, there was a woman that I found on like things like Etsy, right?
Mhm.
So I got a quilt, or I got like name designs out of, cut out of wood for our kids that are mounted on the walls.
Yeah.
They were like $50 a piece or whatever. I guarantee it took that guy an hour or so to skill cut that.
Yeah.
He just made $50 an hour.
Yeah.
And material was $7.
Right.
So listen, it's not setting the world on fire, but if he does that 10, 12 times a month,
yeah,
guess what? That's a pretty nice car payment, or that's a pretty nice down payment. You do that for a couple of years and boom, you've got a house, you got your first one. So I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. Anytime anybody can engage the younger generation in, financial aptitude and understanding of what markets look like and how things will work. I think it's always, time well spent.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just, I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, if I did say that I think financial independence can be achieved by anyone. Do you think that's possible?
I think yes and no. Yes, it can be. No,
Right.
it won't be. Yes,
no,
it can
yeah.
be because, yes, it's possible for everybody,
Right.
unless you're just completely disinterested with being a productive part of society.
Yeah, no, and again, I was talking to that classroom, right? So all 50 of those folks have
One would think yes for that group.
right. They graduated college because it's a master's program, right? They have some financial app, so again, I told them it was all possible, but I also told them that most of you won't make it because you're not willing to sign up for 10 years.
Yeah.
That was my final point.
They spent 10 more years in school than I did.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. But yeah, again, and I say things like that. I tried to shock them.
Yeah.
Right. Financial independence is absolutely possible. Everybody watching this Zoom call. However, I'm also here to tell you that most of you won't make it.
Yeah.
And it's because you're not willing to commit to 10 years.
And they're not willing to choose when faced with the choice of do something fun or do something to invest. Fun almost always wins.
Yeah, it's just.
And I get it. I get it. I
did it. I did it.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
I did it. I lived it. And
Yeah.
I am not ever sorry for how my 20s went.
Yeah. And then the last thing I closed with is, hey, I earned this financial independence at 45. Let me tell you this. I wish I earned it at 35. And
Yes.
if I could do it again, I would get that 10 years back. You know what 10 years would mean? So that's kind of where I ended it. So thank you for helping me put all this together, reviewing this with me. How can people find you?
Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube, Thursday nights at 8 p.m. with Mrs. Lumberjack for couples, and 11:30 a.m. Sundays Eastern time for just whatever questions people have. We're usually about 3 hours there. It's
That
fun.
hurts my head. 3 hours. That hurts my head.
It's a good time.
All right, man. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.